Come for it.
Okay, thank you. You may step down. Call your next witness.
The state called Detective Ashton Scott.
Bless you. Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Detective.
Good afternoon.
Will you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Ashton Scott. The spelling is Ashton, and the last name is Scott.
And Detective Scott, how are you currently employed?
I am currently employed with the Galveston County Sheriff's Office. I'm assigned to the Major Crimes Division, specifically the Criminal Investigation Unit.
And I'm going to ask you to pull that microphone to you a little bit closer just to make sure that we can all hear you, okay?
Okay.
And it's adjustable, however you want to make it.
Don't want to breathe at all.
So in order to become a detective in the Criminal Investigation Division, do you have to be a peace officer?
Yes, ma'am.
How is it you become a peace officer?
I completed a basic peace officer academy in 2012 through College of the Mainland, which certified me through the state through TCOL.
And when you say through TCOL, is that a licensure you must obtain?
Yes, ma'am. It's the Texas Commission of Law Enforcement.
And so you said in 2012, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So is that fair to say you've been in peace officer for about 13 years?
Most of 13 years. I worked for the private side as a corporate fraud investigator for a couple of years.
Okay, let's go through kind of your training experience a little bit. What was the first job you had after obtaining your basic peace officer license?
I was hired on with the Galveston Police Department in 2013, and I worked for them from 2013 through 2023.
And what roles did you have at the Galveston Police Department?
I was a patrol officer, I was a field training officer, I was a detective with the crime scene unit, and then I was a sergeant.
So I'm going to go through a couple of those. So when you say patrol, is that what we think of as the normal officers who are out and about on the street?
Yes, ma'am. Patrol is your first level of response to if you need any type of police assistance, anything from a noise complaint to a homicide or robbery.
And then the next thing you said was an FTO. What is that?
A field training officer is the officer that trains the new hires to be patrol officers.
So is it fair to say you help train the rookies?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then the next thing that you stated was you were a detective on the crime scene unit. What does that mean?
The crime scene unit is forensic, we deal in forensic evidence, so fingerprints, blood spatter, photography.
And we've heard from Investigators Crow and Investigator Chambers from the Sheriff's Office. Would that be the equivalent role of what you were at GPD?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then the last thing you stated was you were a sergeant. What was that role?
I was a patrol supervisor. There were approximately, it fluctuated, but there were approximately 15 officers on my shift, and I was their supervisor. I was over scheduling and making decisions on major scenes.
And how long were you in that supervisory role?
3 years.
After that 3 years, did you remain at GPD or did you go somewhere else?
I left. I went to the private sector. I was a corporate fraud investigator for financial crimes and internal fraud.
What does a fraud investigator mean? What did you do?
You investigate if there is fraud anywhere from forged documents, forged signatures, money laundering, theft from the company, anything that would fall under that.
And is that fraud investigation, does that ever correspond with something that law enforcement does?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And can you give me an example of that? Why would law enforcement be involved in some fraud investigations?
Perjury, for example, if you have a forged signature, especially if there's a theft of funds with that. So fraud is identity theft, it's the theft of money, and that is very much a law enforcement concern.
And through your experience in the private sector and the law enforcement community, have you had few or many opportunities to go through financial crimes, bank statements, credit card returns, that sort of thing?
Yes, ma'am.
And in general, if you're wanting to look through somebody's bank account or statements, how do you go about that as an investigator?
I issue a subpoena to the company requesting the information for that investigation. It could be anything from user information as far as names on the account to where the money has been transferred from and to.
And are there any other sort of extra trainings or certifications that you've obtained in your time over the last 13 plus years of law enforcement?
I'm a member of ACFE, which is the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. I'm an advanced peace officer. I hold that level of certification.
And how long was it that you were in the private sector?
Approximately a year and a half.
After the private sector, what did you do?
I came to the Gaston County Sheriff's Office.
And have you held many or just one role at the Sheriff's Office?
One role.
So in the Major Crimes Criminal Investigation Division, what is your role at the Sheriff's Office?
I'm a detective for our Major Crimes Unit. So I investigate anything from sexual assault of a child, homicide, robberies, and financial crimes. I do still investigate fraud.
And does your background as a fraud examiner help you in investigating some of those fraud type crimes?
Yes, ma'am. I think the more experience you have with anything, you know what to look for.
I want to bring your attention to February 7th of 2025. Do you recall that date?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you doing on that date?
It was a Friday, and I was working.
At any point, did you get called to a scene?
I learned of a major investigation where the victim's financial accounts had potentially been compromised. I was tasked with subpoenaing some of those financial institutions and companies for information as far as the transactions on those accounts.
And what companies did you subpoena?
The initial one that I was tasked with subpoenaing was Chase Bank. I issued a subpoena to them with the victim's information, and they came back and told me that they had no accounts for the victim. Her name was Tammy King. After I issued a subpoena to Chase, I issued another one to Block Inc., which is the corporate name for Cash App.
And for those of us who may not know, what is Cash App?
Cash App is a peer-to-peer money transfer service. So they facilitate the transfer of money from one person's bank account or credit card to another person's. They're the middleman.
And can you also leave money in your Cash App, or do they maintain in bank accounts?
You can leave money in it, yes ma'am.
Okay. And so you reached out to Block Inc., and what accounts did you do a subpoena for?
Ms. Tammy King.
Okay. And did that come back with anything?
Yes, ma'am. I issued a subpoena to Block Inc. They, on the same day, returned the information. The return had Ms. King's information, her identifiers, and it had accounts that had been linked to her Cash App account. And also it had a list of transfers of money coming into her account and money leaving her account.
Okay. And before we kind of get into what that Cash App gave back to you, were there any other subpoenas that you sent out?
Initially the Chase Bank, then the Cash App, and then a Wells Fargo account.
And did you receive back any information from Wells Fargo?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And was that also in relation to Ms. King?
Do you mind if I have a few minutes?
Absolutely. Feel free to refresh your memory, and then once you feel refreshed, look up at me.
The Wells Fargo account was for Ms. King. She did have a bank account with them. And on her Cash App return, there was another bank account for Chase Bank. Since I'd already talked to Chase Bank and they told me they did not have an account for Ms. King, I knew that was likely not hers. So I issued another subpoena to Chase Bank requesting the information of who that account belonged to.
And did you ultimately get information back from Chase Bank about that account number?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you learn who that account belonged to?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was that?
Uriah Urick.
And after you obtained that subpoena return from Chase Bank, did you send off any extra subpoenas?
After I received the one from Chase Bank, I sent an additional subpoena to Cash App for a username that Ms. King had transferred money to that wasn't in the rest of the history. I believe the username on that was Ratstar.
Okay. And did you learn who that belonged to?
Yes, ma'am. His name was Jaden. And I believe he was a Jaden Andrews.
Would the last name Landry sound right?
Yes, Landry.
So for a Jaden Landry.
Jaden Landry.
After that, did you send off any other Cash App subpoenas?
I did. I sent another one for an account that was labeled belonging to Tara King.
And did that come back with any return information?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And after that, did you send off any other subpoenas?
I sent off one to AT&T for Tammy King's phone records.
And when you get these return backs, do the companies also send you what's called a business records affidavit?
Yes, ma'am, they do.
And what does that mean?
That is the company certifying that an employee of their company prepared those records and that they came directly from the company.
And when they send you back information, do they send you a little bit or a lot, or does it just depend?
It depends.
Your Honor, the state's going to move to omit states 94, which is the AT&T, to Cash App, Wells Fargo, and Chase Bank returns with the accompanying VRAs.
Any objection?
No.
States 94 will be removed.
Thank you, Your Honor. And may I publish?
Yes.
All right, Detective Scott, I want to start with the Cash App return for Tammy King. When we open this folder, can you explain to the jury what is it that we look at?
This folder is the information that Cash App provided in response to the subpoena I sent them from Ms. Tammy King's account.
And is this bottom part the Excel spreadsheet where the data actually is?
Yes, ma'am.
And what are the other documents?
The other documents are the custodian of records, which is what we previously discussed, the business records affidavit, where the company is certifying that they did provide these documents. One of them, the Cash App guide, is how to read the information that they're sending back. Sometimes it can look kind of jumbled, and they provide a user guide for that.
And then what's the very top one?
The cover sheet is their opening, their letter to the department.
So is it fair to say that the bottom document is the one that has the information you were seeking?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so if we're looking at this Excel document, can you tell us kind of what we're looking at in the top section?
The top section is Ms. King's personal information that identifies her and confirms that this is her account, such as her date of birth and social.
And to your knowledge, does this identifier of the date of birth, social, and name, does this match the victim in this case?
To my knowledge, yes.
Now I want to move down to this next section to the address history. What are we looking at here?
4723 15th Street is Ms. King's address. It is the one I was called to on February 7th.
So the same street that you responded to is the same street that this account is activated with?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What is the display name talking to us about?
The display name is what appears to the public. If you or I were to request money or transfer it to Ms. King, that's what would show up on our screen on our side.
And with Cash App, is your username the display name, or is there also like a handle like you would see with Instagram?
There is a user ID, which is what the public sees. That's the name displayed to the public. Cash App also has something called an account token. It's what the company uses to identify an account. For example, there may be many Tammy Kings out there, and they could all have their name on the account, that display name. However, the account token is specific to that account, and that's what the company uses to identify that.
And can you tell when the this account was created by Ms. King?
It looks like it was created November 29th of 2020 is when data first started being entered to her account and saved.
And as far as that customer token or anything like that, when's the last time that there was any data on that portion of the account?
I'm sorry, say again.
I'm sorry, I asked that poorly. What was the last date of any changes on the alias history portion of the account?
That was August 25th of 2024.
I want to move down to this payment source history. What is it that we are looking at in this payment source?
These are financial accounts that have been linked to Ms. King's Cash App.
And if someone doesn't have Cash App and we're talking about a payment source being linked, what does that mean?
It means that that account is now tied to the Cash App account in a manner that funds can be transferred in and out of that financial account to that Cash App account.
Okay. And we see the first 3 lines on this payment source history all come from a Wells Fargo. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And were those cards successfully linked?
Yes.
Okay. And were you able to identify or confirm who those Wells Fargo accounts belong to?
They belong to Tammy King.
Okay. What do we see after those initial 3 Wells Fargo accounts?
After those accounts, the next lines, the 2 of them say JP Morgan Chase Bank. Those are actually right there ending in 4600. Those are debit cards.
Okay.
And if you look to the side of where it says bank, it'll say debit.
And what does that tell you? What's the difference between it saying debit versus those initial 3?
It's the bank. The first 3 are a bank account. The next 2 through JP Morgan Chase are debit cards. They're identified debit cards.
So one is coming from the actual card, the other was linking to an account. Is that correct? Okay. And what was the linking result for those 2 debit card?
It didn't work. If you look, it says error, suspected fraud.
Now, through your time as a fraud examiner, how do places such as Cash App alert or say that something is suspected fraud?
I don't work for that company, so I can't testify to exactly what their methods are, but it is fairly common for there to be automated things in place, such as if names don't match on accounts, that they'll flag it and they won't link immediately.
So for example, if Tammy King's account was adding a card with somebody else's name, it may flag it.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, those 2 debit card numbers, is that the same number tried twice, or what are we looking at?
I believe it's the same number tried twice. If you highlight those 2 and scroll to the right, it'll actually show dates and times of the attempt. So right there, it appears that it was tried twice. Right there under created at, those are the dates and the times, and since there are 2 different times, it was tried twice.
Okay. And are you familiar with what UTC time is?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
Coordinated Universal Time. It is the worldwide standard that all of our time zones are based off of.
And is UTC time and Central Time the same time?
No, not at
Do you know how many hours different UTC time is from Central Standard Time?
It's actually tricky. It changes depending on daylight savings time. I think we are currently at a 6-hour difference, that we are, I believe, 6 hours behind UTC time, but depending on daylight savings time, it could be different.
So is it fair to say that in the period we're in now, it's -6, but in the other part of daylight savings, it's something like -5?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if during this period of time it'd be -6, are you able to tell us what time these transactions were?
If those transactions are clocked on UTC time at February 6th at 12:14 a.m., then they likely, our time occurred February 5th at 6:14 p.m.
So 6 hours previously, it would have been on the evening of February 5th at 6:15, correct?
6:14.
6:14, I apologize. And so that's on both of those, or they tried it roughly at the same time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you said both of these ultimately were unsuccessful, correct?
Correct.
Now, here is this next section. What do we see?
That is another attempt at linking a financial account to Ms. King's Cash App.
And was this one successful or unsuccessful?
Yes, ma'am, it was successful.
And can you tell us at what date and time this one was?
UTC time, February 6th at approximately 12:11 a.m. So in our central time, February 5th at about 6:11 p.m.
And I know earlier when we were talking about days, you arrived to the scene on Friday, February 7th, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So what day would February 5th have been?
Wednesday?
So these transactions are occurring at about 6 p.m. on Wednesday, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I keep making you do math up there. All right. Now we get down here. What does this line 64 mean?
Attempted peer-to-peer payments.
And are these payments, do they go in most recent to oldest or oldest to most recent?
It looks like they are going most recent to older.
And now when you issue Cash App subpoenas, are you getting the entirety of somebody's Cash App history, or does sometimes you only get portions?
I can't testify to that. Whenever I asked for February. So I believe the company gave me everything they had for February.
Okay, so it's possible that there could have been other months of transactions, but we specifically subpoenaed February.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I want to start from the oldest, if that's okay. What date was the first February transaction?
February 1st.
And what do we see happening here? Explain to us what one of these lines would show.
Okay. So it has the date, I'm hitting the screen. It has the date and time that the transaction occurred, and it says paid out, which means that money went from Ms. King's Cash App account to somebody else's account. And then the next column is how much money she sent them.
Okay. After how much, what do we get to?
We have a note that can be placed on the transaction. This one says Taco Bell, so whatever reason that she sent that money for, she noted Taco Bell.
Okay. And then we move forward. What are these next lines?
That is Ms. King's name, and then those are account tokens, and then cash balance. I would need to see the top of the column.
Okay. That.
So the center subject, that means that that CFQ number is Ms. King.
Okay. And what do we see in column H?
Request.
Okay. And what does request mean?
That she's requesting to send the money. Or that somebody's requesting to get that money. Sorry.
Okay. And so for things like Cash App, what does it mean for someone to request? How does that work?
It means you can say, I, Ashton Scott, need money, you owe me money. It's almost like me sending you a bill. So I can send you a request through the app and say, will you give me this money?
And who was it that requested the Taco Bell money from Tammy King?
Tara King.
And is the rest of the columns just some further data that it gives?
Yes, ma'am, the IP address.
I want to move forward a little bit. Just to the next line. What are the next two transactions for and for what amount?
The next two transactions, one is for $20 for phone case for new phone, please. I'm guessing that's a typo. Release. And then the one after that is for $29. 29 for case is the same one I have now, but right size.
And were these also requests?
Yes, ma'am.
And who requested those two items?
Tara King.
And ultimately, were these requests made? Were they paid out?
Yes, they were. If you stop right there under column B, it says paid out.
So the three requests sent in early February from Tara to Tammy were all completed. Tammy sent her the money.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to skip ahead a little to line 75 where we see the date February 5th. And is there a transaction? What transaction is happening here? What do we know about it?
On line 75, February 5th at approximately 12:32 a.m., which in our time would actually be February 4th at about 6:32 p.m., there is a payout from Tammy King's account in the amount of $55.
And we see that this says paying versus request.
Correct.
What's the difference here?
Tammy initiated that.
Okay. And who did she send that $55 to?
Tara King.
Okay. And so are all of the transactions in February up to this point, which would really be February 4th, were they all to Tara King?
Yes, ma'am.
And was all the money sent?
Yes, ma'am.
Now I want to go directly above that. What time would this transaction on line 74 have been?
February 5th at approximately 4:50 p.m. UTC time. Math. So February 5th minus, he said 6, so approximately 10:50 a.m. there is a transaction for $350.
And what is this part we see in section B?
Expired, waiting on sender.
So was this transaction completed?
No, it expired, it didn't go through.
And whose account did this transaction come from?
Miss Tammy King.
And who was it to?
Somebody with the username Ratstar.
Is that who we spoke about earlier? You said his name was Jaden Landry?
Yes, ma'am, Jaden Andrew Landry.
And then after that, what's this next transaction?
The next transaction, February 5th, is for $1,000, and it says amount exceeded, recipient monthly receive limit.
Okay, and who would the recipient be in this transaction? Would it be Tammy's phone or whoever she's sending it to?
Whoever she's sending it to.
Okay, so this says this amount exceeds the recipient's receive limits, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And who, was this a pay or a request?
This was a request. Somebody requested that money from Tammy.
And who was it that requested that money from Tammy?
Tara King.
And this would have been at about 2 p.m. on February 5th, is that correct?
Minus 6. Yes, ma'am.
Right after that, what's the next transaction that we see?
Another one, also on February 5th, at approximately 6:05 p.m. our time. There is a payout.
Is it 6:05 our time or about 2 p.m. our time?
I'm sorry, about 2 p.m. our time. Correct.
Sorry, I keep making you do math, I apologize.
That's okay.
So this is a transaction that was successful.
Yes, ma'am.
And same questions, was this a pay or a request?
This was a request from someone else to Ms. King.
And who was that someone else?
Tara King.
And as we kind of keep going up, I'll stay here. Who are the next 6 transactions from?
They're all to Tara King.
And are they requests?
Yes, ma'am.
And are they all within the same kind of few minutes at around 2 o'clock on the 5th?
Yes, 05, 06, 06, 07. Yes, ma'am.
So does it seem like these are happening in pretty rapid succession?
Yes.
And what is happening with, what do you notice about kind of columns B and C? What's happening?
Some of them are paid out, some of them are not. And they are for varying amounts, 300, 200, 200, 150, 10, 20. So, like I said, some of them, the money did leave Ms. King's account and was received by Tara King, and then some of them are showing amount exceeded.
So at around 2 p.m. on February 5th, which is Wednesday, money is being taken from Tammy King's account and being put into Tara King's account. Is that fair?
Yes, ma'am.
And now, does Cash App tell you who exactly is sending or requesting, or does it just tell you what accounts are doing it?
It tells you what accounts are doing it.
Okay. So it doesn't tell you that, say it's mine, it doesn't say that Miss Willis is sitting here sending the money. It just says Miss Willis's account is sending the money. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then what is, and so those last kind of 6, is this when the Cash App payments stop as far as what you got on the return?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, we go to this next section. What is different from what we saw earlier with these P2P payments versus transfers?
The transfers are money coming into Tammy King's Cash App account, leaving her bank account and going into her Cash App account.
Okay. Is it also the same as when you're transferring it from your Cash App account back to your bank account?
Yes.
Now, I'll skip this bottom line 103, but let's start with 102, okay?
Okay.
What are we looking at here? What date and time was this?
This was February 5th, 2025, 12:32 a.m. So in our time,
Would be about 6 p.m. on the 4th?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. And does this correspond with that same Tuesday night $50 transfer to Tara King that we saw?
It's around the same time.
Now we move to this next one in 101. What time would that be at?
2:49 p.m. So, around 8:49 a.m. I'm sorry, 10:49 a.m.
Okay. And does that kind of correspond with where earlier we saw things starting to happen about 10:50 a.m.? Is that about the same time?
Around the same time.
Okay. And what is happening here? Are these transfers successful?
Yes.
Okay. And we can see, are they coming from the Cash App balance or are they coming from Ms. King's bank account?
They're coming from Ms. King's Wells Fargo account.
And then we can see they're going, where is it going?
It is money coming from Ms. King's bank account and going into her Cash App account. And Cash App can hold funds. It doesn't just transfer from one to the other, it can hold them as well.
Okay, so at this point, money is coming from Tammy King's Wells Fargo account and being held inside the Cash App account. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. And what amounts are being transferred from Ms. King's bank account into her Cash App account?
Various amounts. There looks like a cluster, each of them for $200. It looks like there is a failed attempt at $20,000 and another failed attempt at $5,000. And then there are some more successful attempts. You're scrolling.
Sorry, you're right.
It's okay.
So we have these two failed, correct?
Correct.
And then we move on, you said they become successful again.
Yes.
Okay.
Lower amounts.
And on these lower amounts, can you tell us about what date and time these are happening?
Do you want UTC or do you want our time?
Whichever one is easier for you.
Okay. So the complete for the 500 and the 600 is in our time, February 5th at approximately, that one is at 6:12 p.m.
So in the evening of February 5th is when these 500s are being moved from Ms. King's bank account to her Cash App.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we see another one that ends up being failed, correct?
Correct.
What was the amount of that one?
$2,500.
And going up from there, what starts happening?
Going up from there, there is one more completed transaction for $1,000. And then there is instant waiting on link card hurdle resolution. And I do not know what that means off the top of my head without the guide.
No problem. But clearly something different is occurring than our completions or fails, correct?
Correct.
And what are the amounts there?
$3,553.85.
So at this point, is it fair to say a substantial amount of money has moved from Ms. King's bank account to her Cash App?
Correct.
And as we go down, are these just kind of more information about where, what accounts and what phones are utilizing this account?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what phone is linked to Ms. King's account?
It looks like the Moto G Stylus 5G. There's two of them. One says 2022, one says 2024.
Is the 2024 the most recent one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then on the second page here, is this just more data that comes from Cash App?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay.
If you go back up, I would like to show you something here. to where the $3,553 was. If you go over how those two are different, those top two, go over some more. And some more. Right there under column F, it says cash out. So cash in is money coming into Ms. King's cash app account from her bank account. And cash out is someone attempting to transfer money out of her cash app account.
Okay, so this is the money that is in Ms. King's cash app account is now being attempted to go elsewhere.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And those, it looks like something held them up. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. You also did a cash app for Tara King. Is that correct?
Correct.
Go ahead. No, you're fine.
The name on the data for Ms. King's Cash App account, there was a user token, Cash App token. That's the jumble of letters that don't specify a specific name. So I did a subpoena to Cash App for that to see the user information, who that belonged to.
And do these 4 documents correspond to the same 4 documents we talked about with Ms. King's?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So here, what address do we have on this account?
4723 15th Street,
And what is this user's display name?
Tara King.
And when was Tara King's Cash App created?
It looks like March 13th of 2024.
Okay. And here we have something where it says issued instruments. What is kind of the difference between a virtual card and a physical card as far as Cash App is concerned?
A physical card is like our debit card. It's something you can actually swipe at a point of sale, point in a store to buy something.
And so is that something that Cash App and these other P2P companies will issue a physical card?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Like a debit card.
Now, we see here that Tara King also has this same section of attempted P2P payments, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to go to these same dates we were looking at in that February 4th to February 7th range. Does this line item 67 seem to correspond with what you could see on Tammy King's account?
It's around the same time, that few days of clustering.
And in fact, does it seem like the majority of Tara's transactions are with Tammy?
It does.
So moving forward, what is this next line 66 telling us?
Bless you. Line 66 is for a transaction on February 5th at approximately, I believe that is in our time, about 2:05 p.m.
And am I correct in saying that when we were looking at Miss King's, there was a lot happening around this same 2:05 mark?
Yes, ma'am.
And so does that correspond with what we see here on Tammy's?
Yes.
Or on Tara's, I apologize.
Yeah, Tara's account and Tammy's, their accounts are communicating with each other.
So is it fair to say that the 2 accounts that you cash out are the ones that are sending and receiving money between each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So with Wells Fargo, is this how they send you their documents?
Yes, ma'am.
And for the most part, are they the same style of documents that Cash App sends? Is that pretty common for financial institutions' returns?
It's similar. They'll do a custodian of records or a business records affidavit certifying that the company is releasing those to us.
Okay. And what sort of information does Wells Fargo give you?
Wells Fargo gives me the name and address on accounts. It's whatever I ask for, but they give the name and address, and then they give the transactions.
And when you subpoenaed Ms. King's Wells Fargo account, you said that account matches the one that's linked to Ms. King's Cash App, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you able to also see that through her Wells Fargo returns?
I believe there were some transactions.
Now we also have this JP Morgan Chase, correct?
Yes.
And earlier you were explaining to us how you subpoenaed this information. Will you remind us where you got the number to subpoena for JP Morgan Chase?
The JP Morgan Chase account showed up on Tammy King's account as one that was being attempted to link to her Cash App account. For the debit card, it actually said JP Morgan Chase Bank. For the bank account, it didn't say the bank name, but it did have a routing number. Bank account and routing number, pretty standard whenever you're making transfers. I searched the routing number and discovered that the routing number also belonged to Chase Bank.
And so when you subpoenaed those numbers through Chase Bank, whose information did they give you as a return? Who did it belong to?
Uriah Urick.
And under Uriah's name, does it also give, I apologize, further information about him?
Yes, ma'am. It gives the address on file, the email address on file, the social security number, and the date of birth for the account holder.
And specifically, can you tell us what Uriah's email is?
Percy, can you zoom in? I'm sorry. Oh, I have it here too. I'm sorry. And where's he at? percyfrogpog@gmail.com.
And does this also give you, does this give you the debit card number and the account number that you were looking for?
It does. It gives me the debit card number ending in 4600, which was the one on Ms. King's Cash App.
Okay. And so you said that does match Ms. King's Cash App attempt?
Yes, ma'am.
So once you obtained all of these records, do you go through them?
Yes, most of them.
And is that the majority of what you looked at, these transactions that were going back and forth out of Ms. King's account?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And through your training experience as a fraud examiner, was there anything that stood out to you or was of concern about what was happening?
That I did go to the original scene.
Okay.
I did see Ms. King. She was deceased, and it looked like she had been that way. It was not fresh. So whenever I received the Cash App returns and saw the dates of the transactions and the attempts at linking accounts to that Cash App account, it seemed like it had occurred around the same time that Ms. King died.
So why, through your experience, would that be concerning to you? I know it may sound like a silly question, but what about that raises alarms as an investigator?
That around the time she died, somebody was trying to take her money.
And was whoever that was actually successful in taking some of her money?
Yes, ma'am.
Other than going through all of these subpoenas and issuing them, was there anything further that you had involvement with in this case?
Yes, ma'am. Other than the financial institutions, as I said, I also issued a subpoena to AT&T for Ms. King's phone records. It was requested that I do that.
Okay. And was there anything of any large note in those phone records?
I did not go through those phone records.
Okay. But you did subpoena them, and they were as part of this exhibit, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you do anything else other than that?
I went to the scene.
Anything else as far as something you were tasked with, or did that complete your part of the investigation?
That completed my part.
I'll pass this witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Acton?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, my name is Bill Agnew, and I represent Uriah Urick, the city here on my right. The records you requested from all the financial institutions were just from February of 2025, is that correct?
As far as my memory serves, yes.
So you didn't have like any other history to know what kinds of transactions happened, let's say January or December, or the months preceding February of 2025, correct?
Correct.
So there's no kind of reference point to know how much money would have gone to Tara from Tammy before that time.
Correct.
And presumably, I mean, that's essentially her mother, even though she's not biologically her mother. That was who was raising her. That's a pretty popular way for parents to send money to kids nowadays, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
Happens a lot. Okay. And I mean, and I know that's different than what we all did when we were growing up, but I mean, that's a pretty common way to transfer money now. You know, it's Cash App, PayPal, things like that, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So we don't have any history to compare kind of how much transactions may have happened before February as opposed to what happened just in the first 5 or 6 days of February, correct?
Correct. We do not have a reference point of what their norm was in their transfers.
Okay. And as far as you said you got the AT&T phone records,
Yes.
but you didn't analyze them or look at them or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay. Is that done by somebody else?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Vice Witness.
Just briefly, Judge, and may I republish States 94?
Yes.
All right, Detective Scott, I've reopened the Cash App return for Tara King, okay? Now, what Mr. Agnew was just asking you was, on Tammy's account, we didn't have any reference points other than February, correct?
Correct.
Now, on Tara's account, do we in fact have attempted payments back into January?
They did give me those.
Okay.
I requested in the subpoena the information for the Cash App to learn the user information, and they gave me a lot more.
So, while we didn't have the information from Tammy's side, we do have some information from Tara's side, correct?
Yes, ma'am. There are transactions.
Okay. And these transactions that are occurring in January, do these look like they are, for the most part, successful?
Yes, it says paid.
And the amounts, are they smaller or larger amounts?
They are under $100.
And in comparison to those transfers we see at the later dates in February that we have, the 5th and 6th, how do these amounts compare to the amounts being transferred or attempted transferred on the 5th and 6th?
Every one of the transfers on the screen currently is for under $100. And in the ones that you and I reviewed a few minutes ago, they were all for over $100, $200, $300, $500, $1,000.
So is it fair to say that there is a difference in the transaction history from January to February?
There appears to be, yes.
And are we seeing that these are still between Tara and Tammy?
Correct, they are.
It looks like, are there a couple to some other people?
Yes, there is one to Rat Star. That was also the name on Tammy King's Cash App account. There is also another one to Rat Star, one to Audrey Van Hoy, Nicole, Antonio, Angel.
So in January, Tara had quite a few cash exchanges with multiple people. Is that fair?
Yes, ma'am.
And these Rat Star exchanges, these are back in early January. Is that correct? If that's line 89?
Yes.
Okay. So is it fair to say that Tara had exchanges with Jaden Landry prior to what we saw in Ms. King's account?
Yes.
Okay. So Jaden Landry was someone who had previous exchange history with Tara.
Yes.
Okay. So ultimately, would you say there was a noted change on the 5th and 6th of February?
And the amount that was being transferred, yes, there was a difference.
I'll pass this to you, Mr. Honor.
Did you have no further questions?
Okay, you may step down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Call your next witness. Oh, quick bathroom break. All right. We'll be right back. Okay, quick.
All rise for the jury.
Court stands in recess for about 10 minutes. I think you're free to go.
No.